Good morning. My name is Lillian Wong. I'm the head of RISD's Department of Interior Architecture. On behalf of my co-instructors, Elizabeth Debs and Jonathan Bell, and the 7 recent grads from the MA in Adaptive Reuse program, I would like to thank Venture Cafe and Avi, Amy, and Tuni for inviting us here today. I would also like to thank our sponsors, Building Enclosure Science, and especially Seth Izzy and Michael Kenny, who shared their knowledge of Superman with us this past spring. Today, we will be presenting the projects from our Saving Superman website, savingsuperman.risd.edu. This URL is shared on the chat for you. Saving Superman began out of a conversation last year with Rachel Robinson, Director of Historic Preservation at the Providence Preservation Society. A topic that came up was the inclusion of the Industrial Trust Building on the National Trust list of America's 11 most endangered historic places. These nominations shed light on important examples of our nation's heritage that are at risk of destruction or irreparable damage. In the 32-year history of this listing, there have been over 300 places named and fewer than 5% of listed sites that have been lost. In hoping that the Industrial Trust would fall into the former category in its nomination year, we discussed its reuse as a topic for the RISD Adaptive Reuse Design Studio in spring of 2020. In the Department of Interior Architecture, we were thrilled to collaborate to raise awareness of the risks placed on Superman after 7 years of vacancy. It fit perfectly the objectives of our department and the post-professional MA program, an immersion into altering and intervening in existing structures. The students are all architects who come to RISD from around the world to study adaptive reuse for a single year. Our objectives were multi-layered in raising awareness for Superman. Aside from the understanding of heritage and its future, they included an investigation into economic viability through understanding its community, and in particular, the stakeholders in the city, from local businesses to development consultants, city planners, and technical experts. These investigations began in earnest in January with the creation of a giant model of Superman, which you will hear about shortly. In the spring, equipped with data, historical context, opinions, ideas, and optimism, the students set about their design speculations for one of Providence's and Rhode Island's most urgent architectural, economic development, and public image issues. They also received a secret tour from owner David Sweetser, who personally took the studio through Superman, from the banking hall and basement vaults to the very top of the tower. We were thrilled to find it in excellent condition and ready for the new lives the students were planning. In mid-March, the pandemic forced the closure of RISD's physical environment, but not the studio's work. The semester continued remotely and digitally. This radical shift did not stop the students' early ideas from developing into the projects of reuse, which they will present to you now. As this landing page shows, these projects are our views of Superman from College Hill. Thank you for joining us today. I would like now to invite my colleague, Jonathan Bell, to tell you a bit more about the Industrial Trust Building. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Most of us know the Industrial Trust Building as Superman, and so we'll just refer to it as the Superman building. It was so called for its stylistic resemblance to the Daily Planet building, and buildings actually that appeared in Superman comics and television shows starting in the 1940s. So it's a nickname that's sort of grown with time and affiliation. To put the Superman construction in context, it was completed in 1928 at the height of Providence's industrial wealth. This is the same year that the Lowe's State Theater, which we now know as PPAC, was completed, and it was the same year that the Masonic Temple's construction was abandoned. That's now the Renaissance Hotel, adjacent to the mall and the State House. Superman was the tallest building in New England when it was finished, and it remains the tallest building in Rhode Island. From 1928 until 2013, the bank, a bank was its main tenant. But since that last bank tenant moved out, it's been empty. As Lillian just said, in 2019, it was placed on the National Trust for Historic Preservation's list of 11 most endangered historic places. It's also for at least the fifth, if not the sixth time, on Providence Preservation Society's annual list of the most endangered properties in Providence. Michael went through a lot of the sort of technical aspects of the building. Walker & Gillette, or the principal firm in New York. There was also George Frederick Hall, a local architect in Providence, who was affiliated with the design. The Starrett brothers from New York were its builders, and interestingly, they moved on to also build the Empire State Building a couple years later. Superman's Art Deco, with Indiana limestone and Deer Island granite cladding, the backup wall of terracotta block, as we've heard, and a riveted steel structure. The building is overstructured by today's standards. In one structural consultant's estimate, if it were built today, we could probably use about 30% less steel, which actually gave our students a convenient framework to make alterations structurally to the building without risk of negatively impacting the integrity of it. In the basement of the Superman building is a vault with 15.5-ton vault doors. At one point, this vault housed $1.3 billion worth of items. The main banking hall has marble flooring, decorative elements on the ceiling, and brass vents and railing details throughout. And it's all in exquisite condition in the main banking hall. The Superman building has a total square footage of over 380,000 square feet over 26 floors. To understand the sheer volume of this structure, the students put together a series of comparative diagrams. Its square footage is equal to 1 New York public library, 3 running tracks, 28 Olympic swimming pools, 168 Starbucks, 1,187 parking spaces, and 1,200 hotel rooms. If we were to consider the Superman building as a concentrated assembly occupancy at 7 square feet per person, a filled Superman building would equal the capacity of Yankee Stadium or 5.5 McCoy Stadiums. That's just to give you a sense of the scale of the building. I'm going to pass you on next to Elizabeth Debs, who's going to talk about the specific project brief that we gave the students.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks, Jonathan, for the nice overview. The spring semester is the culmination of the one-year Master of Adaptive Reuse program, and programs are selected for their cultural relevance and also expected to be a combination of studio design with very practical grounding in the realities of the site and its background. For instance, in previous years, the program has taken on important real-life projects such as sea level rise in Newport's historic neighborhoods, which had a huge community engagement component, and that was enhanced by gaming software, which the students designed. This year, as you know, the Saving Superman Studio is intended to be an exercise that re-envisions Rhode Island's most significant historic landmark through creative design endeavors that respect the building's integrity while pushing the boundaries of innovation. And that's a quote from Rachel Robinson, our partner at Providence Preservation Society. So let's quickly talk about the process for the studio and the giant model that Lillian referred to. The students began their unprecedented semester by building a 1/8 scale section model in order to study the existing historic building conditions. It took them 9 weeks and 80 sheets of laser cut chipboard to complete the 5-foot tall model, which you see in the image. The model is currently living in our studio on Woybossett Street. And to show the intricate historic details, they often had to laminate 3 or 4 layers of chipboard, and they used several dozen wooden dowels for the structural columns. While working on the model, they also underwent a comprehensive process to study the building's context from many different vantage points. The students met with local stakeholders every week, including city planners, development consultants, local business representatives, structural engineers, as Jonathan mentioned, and financial experts. And of course, the first people that we met in person were building enclosure science, which was informative and eye-opening. And then the last group that we met with in person was the Cambridge Innovation Center, which was exceptionally helpful in understanding Rhode Island's current and future economic trends, and also part of the reason why we're here today. As Leanne mentioned earlier, we pivoted fairly smoothly to remote learning in late March, and we all learned better ways to communicate ideas digitally. But in addition to addressing the logistics of the pandemic, several of the students updated their proposals to incorporate emerging information about COVID-19 and design. As we look at the design proposals, it's clear that the students developed a solid understanding of the historic structure and also absorbed the advice from the experts, which they used as a springboard for very creative problem solving. And now I'll turn it over to the students so that you can see for yourselves the wide range of solutions that they've designed. First, let's start with Shreya Anand.
Hello everyone, I'm Shreya. Located in downtown Providence, the Industrial Trust Building is a landmark peeking at you every time you look at the skyline of Rhode Island. My proposal focuses on Rhode Island's least income generating and least populous industry, farming. The central location of the Rhode Island in the New England region makes it ideal for the supply of goods to these states. The Superman building is historically been an iconic landmark in the city. Currently unused, it has the potential to be a unique feature, a vertical urban farm. The experience in its large atrium, seen in the section on the left, accessible to all visitors, the building becomes more than just a factory of food. It becomes a center of living, a destination for all locals and visitors to the city, the old and the young. Enhancing the idea of farm to table, the restaurants on the top would allow people to walk through the crops before they settle down for a meal with your family, a slow moment of nostalgia as grandparents would tell stories of their childhood to the children. With the integration of learning and training and development center, the building itself becomes a museum, a comprehensive culinary experience for all patrons. Not only does the urban farm ensure a safe future for the times of its distress with a seed vault in the basement, it includes the people in running a community garden, propagating the art of growing food. To experience the vertical atrium yourself, you can take out your phone's camera, open the camera app, and you can scan the QR code and experience yourself inside my design. Be sure to move it around 360 degrees, especially the up. The up is the better angle. I would now like to invite my colleague Michelle Katora to explain her project. Thank you.
Thank you, Shreya. Hi, I'm Michelle. So when I first began research, I found that according to Stephen Pryor, Rhode Island's Secretary of Commerce, Rhode Island's life sciences industry concentration is 31% higher than the national average, placing the state to emerge as among the most prominent players, especially on the neuroscience scene. Despite this, in a 5-institution collaboration within Rhode Island, the Rhode Island's Bio-Organization continues to note that the industry remains fragmented and uncoordinated throughout the state, proving the need for a focus and collaboration. This information is what first led my design to focus on the science industry in Rhode Island. My project, Synaptic City, is a proposal for a biotech and life science innovation hub that frames collaborative interactions through the spatial plasticity of modular laboratories. This proposal also aims to demystify the science sector by highlighting the trust between public investment and accountability towards the greater community. As we heard earlier, Superman is well over-designed. I took this information and wondered what would happen if the structure, the bones of Superman, were then exposed. What experience would that create and how could they be utilized? By solely retaining Superman's skeletal structure, so by removing all the floor plates and keeping only the matrix of beams and columns, Synaptic City activates as a network of cells, each prefabricated laboratory inserted, either small, medium, large, or extra large, a temporal microcosm floating within the original bones of the building. These modular units offer complete flexibility within the existing grid of Superman, with the ability to expand, condense, or physically move vertically as well as horizontally. The activity within Superman can constantly fluctuate according to what research or startup is granted funding for a spatial unit. Once research ends, the laboratories may be disassembled and stored below. Through its function as user-centric models, these prefabricated modular cells embed an agency that is optimized for possibility, whether it's from the creation of interstellar satellites to the vaccine for COVID-19. Synaptic City is prepared for dynamic adaptation. Thank you. Now you're going to hear from Ankit Mandawiwala and his studio proposal.
Hello all, my name is Ankit and welcome to the second act. Superman building was built in the 1920s, a period marked by industrialization. But this was also the time when popular types of mass entertainment became a daily part of American society. Superman building marked the success and glory of Providence in its industrial heyday. It served as a center for finance and commerce for 85 years. Today, Providence is proclaimed to be the creative capital, and Superman building can become the repository of creative power and energy. The second act reimagines this Art Deco masterpiece as a melting pot for performing artists, an incubator-style facility to prepare, produce, and present art. It is an assemblage of theaters and other performance spaces, from an underground jazz bar to a soundstage, auditorium, black box theaters, and even open-air venues. The design features a shared production facility with fabrication and wood workshops so that the theaters can focus only on collaborative growth. The interconnection between these theaters is focused on audience and visitor interaction. Exhibition galleries paired with food and drinks foster a sense of community. The artist residency program forms a bond between academia and the professional world. The building is infused with entrepreneurial, creative, and social programs, all designed to create multiple streams of revenue. The performance-centric spaces become perfect hosts for social events. One such possibility could be a wedding celebration on the top floor. The ceremony would take place here. There's a band playing on the terrace. Food and catering is taken care of as well. All these programs are traditionally built on vast stretches of land, and it was one of the major concerns. How do you fit them vertically? These diagrams show how an overbuilt column and beam framed structure can be strategically reconfigured to release the tension and create large open floor plans. And then here you can see how they can be applied across all floors. The geometry of the floor plan allows for all scales of performances. To the right, you see a 200-seater full-fledged stage, and to the left is a 100-seat experimental theater. The external building shell is a project in itself. I will need Michael and Seth's expertise on this, but my idea is to use it as a canvas to broadcast ideas and reconnect at an urban scale. Here you see a backlit freight elevator that doubles up as a moving stage, a glass theater with the backdrop of the city, and a screen for street level engagement. With PVD Fest and other social events setting base at Kennedy Plaza, there is a burst of energy created. The second act absorbs that energy, multiplies it within, and projects it outward for all of Providence. Thank you. I'll invite Yiren Mao as the next presenter.
Hello everyone, I'm Mao. I'm very happy to share my idea on Superman with you. The design inspiration comes from the ongoing life and work challenges we are facing during pandemic. My intention is to transform Superman into a miniature of a lockdown city, hoping this historic building can lead the post-pandemic new normal way of living and working. So I started by looking into the demands of a younger tenants group like myself, which I think is heavily affected by the uncertainty. Before the pandemic, we are just about to start our independent living, searching for affordable housing. We may hope to start our own business, need cheap office and local network. After this pandemic, we are at loss, don't know what's the next step. So in my scheme, I provide new characteristics to a typical office and housing complex, trying to make sure we can go on living like what we planned before and still hold on to a nice life quality even in pandemic. Those new features are, for example, facilities to conduct work remotely, the commuting atmosphere to help focus on work, a sense of companionship with community and annual friends to give mental support, free access to open air, and essential life services like food delivery and barbershop. Within all these programs, I think the most important gesture I take is to divide the building into units with manageable sized residents. Vertically, I use two cuts to divide Superman into 3 towers, with offices and homes separated by the common service tower in the middle. These 2 cuts allow natural light and fresh air to flow through and greenery to grow. Horizontally, neighborhoods are created every 4 floors with interconnected circulation. The cut here serves as a shared courtyard in the air, where residents have their own private outdoor balconies to step out of the room during quarantine and have distant interactions with other neighbors, like projecting a film on the common wall or have a small live concert. A gathering spot, the open-air pet park right above the lobby is the highlight of all public space. It features a one-way 6 feet wide dog walking ramp with platforms here and there to take a pause while jogging and have a nice view of the Kennedy Plaza and Westminster Street. I take out all the floor plates and part of the facade in this 4-story high space to make it tall and open enough and create a scene of this column forest. All the interventions are aimed to celebrate the social life within social distancing, making Superman a safe and vibrant home for young Rhode Islanders. That will be it for my project. Now let's welcome Namira Najib to present her proposal.
Thank you, Mao. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I'm Namira Najib from Pakistan. When I started looking at my research into the Superman building, I started looking at Superman's placement in the heart of Providence and its history, surrounded by the activity of the Kennedy Plaza and Burnside Park with its skating rink, now a silent observer of the citizens of Providence and its youth. My first part of the proposal is a combination of public and private functions, from a welcome area for the visitors of Rhode Island in the main banking hall, a place to showcase its rich history, and a viewing deck and restaurants on its top floors, taking advantage of its verticality and high retail value. Secondly, during my research, I saw the lack of indoor children's activities that were available in Rhode Island and the high demand for them. Thus, the main function is a hypothetical partnership with Providence toy maker Hasbro. The upper floors would have an extension of Hasbro's creative offices with secondary circulation connecting to a 6-story exploratorium and science center, a place for local schools in Rhode Island to bring students so they can learn through touch, interaction, and play. Looking at the sectional graphic on the left, as one enters into the main lobby of the exploratorium on the first floor and heads towards the natural history display, a fluid circulatory ramp will take you around the display, bringing you up to the electricity and math exhibits. Now, looking at the next rendering, we can see multiple circulation opportunities for children and parents, giving the children a chance to explore on their own. Throughout the exploratorium, and mainly when at the adventure play area, children have opportunities to learn and experience places independently. As we look into the next image, here on the plan, one of the plans of the exploratorium on the left, we see a water and science and climate change chamber to educate children and students of our constantly changing world and the changes that face it. As we look at the right side of the plan, our play areas for children of certain ages will explore their way through the adventure slides, climbing areas, as parents will take a secondary elevator, giving them visual connection and freedom at the same time. As Albert Einstein aptly stated, play is the highest form of research. Thus, in these two programs unite in a single moment within a toy display, linking the industry and the future of the city's youth. Lastly, as you can see in this image, I bring focus to the planetarium and the structural exploration I did with the paper models. The sphere of the planetarium produced from the Art Deco structure as a lightweight steel structure. The existing facade of the building is in great condition given its age, and the heavily column structure allowed me to add on an additional volume. The planetarium's protrusion from the Art Deco structure would serve to excite children of the adventures that awaits them within the Superman building. Thank you. Now I would like to invite Shreya Anand to present Rashmi Ravishankar's proposal.
Hello, I'm back. Unfortunately, Rashmi couldn't be here today, and I will be presenting her project on her behalf. With so much going on in the world right now, where various spaces or even transport facilities like trains are being converted into medical units, the concept of adaptive reuse is booming. She is very happy to have pursued a master's in this field. The project, titled Beyond Years, focuses on the reuse of the Superman building, the tallest building in Providence. It was built in 1928 and is left vacant for 7 years now. Considering the high percentage of senior citizens population in Rhode Island and insufficient assisted living homes, she proposes that this building be turned into a home for the elderly. How often do skyscrapers get converted into senior living facilities? Well, this would be one of a kind. With all the terraces of the building, surely would be many of the city from the Superman. But as we all know, the elderly have been the most susceptible to the deadly coronavirus. They have been treated with extra care and precaution and attention. She has used design as a tool to reduce the spread of the viruses in the future. The spaces have a wide spread of fronts like a garden, which partially help in purifying the indoor air. Corridors are wide enough to maintain the norm of social distancing, and lightweight walls are used for construction. Community spaces have been fragmented and strategically located on each floor, where it almost feels like the living room of the housing units. This enhances interaction with the neighbors and avoids crowding at the same time. The building will be equipped with a healthcare unit to attend to emergencies. The residents will also get to interact with the public on the first floor. With RISD and Brown located so close, The first floor would be flooded with students who the elderly would love to interact with. They also have the opportunity to engage themselves in children's daycare and pet care facilities located in the building. All in all, it would be magical for the elderly to live in a building which once had their safety deposits. Thank you. And I would like to invite Hungja Jo to present her design ideas.
Thank you, Shreya. Good morning, everyone. I'm Hongjia, and I come from China. Yeah. My scheme is creating an interior vertical surreal experience park with a hotel inside the building. As we know, Rhode Island is already rich with resources for tourists, such as Newport mansions and the beautiful natural landscape and seashore. The building is intended to function both as an experience park and also as a visitor center and connector for people coming to Rhode Island for tours, exhibitions, programs, and events. This experience park for all ages and compared to most of the theme parks in the US, it can work all year round without being influenced by the weather. There will be a tourist center in the lobby, which provides visitors with all kinds of tourist information about Rhode Island, and also for ticket sale, rental of all kinds of equipment for vertical activities. At the same time, I have inserted the first vertical thrill skydiving in the lobby. Visitors can feel the atmosphere of this experienced park as soon as they enter the building. The four corner towers are unique to the Art Deco setback composition of the building and allowed the creation of the vertical openings. So I use the four corner towers for vertical activities. And Kate, can you please zoom in the image in the top right? In the top right, yeah. They are floating fountain, rock climbing, bungee jumping, and drop tower respectively. Yeah, Ankit, can you please zoom in the image of the section for me? Thank you. The section, yeah. For the structure, I removed the floors and four columns in the middle of the towers from floor 2 to floor 14 and reinforced the vertical openings by using radial truss here. And I did a rough calculation, subtract the initial investment. The project that I proposed will bring approximately $16 million to Providence per year. This is a very exciting number. And I hope this scheme can help to revitalize this significant historic landmark and bring new life and economic growth to downtown Providence. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for giving us the opportunity to talk about our projects again. And we would love to answer questions about any of these projects for Providence's iconic Art Deco Tower. I'd also like to invite everyone to join me in congratulating the MA students for their dreams of reusing Superman. While they have now scattered across the globe, I hope they will come back in the future to see a Superman revitalized and remember their efforts in saving it.
That was fantastic. Thank you all so much. The professors, all these projects are, I think all of our minds have expanded beyond capacity right now, thinking about all these proposals. Fantastic job. Are you in Rhode Island? Are you all here or are you back home?
I'm in California.
I'm back home in Pakistan.
Wow.
New York.
I'm between New Jersey and Providence right now.
Thank you all for pulling this together. This was just such an amazing presentation, and yeah, the possibilities are endless. Now we just need to find those investors to invest in them and execute this.
Really appreciate the last presentation and how we integrated the financial return on investment. I can only imagine that most of these projects obviously will incur a huge financial cost, but has there been discussion about that? It sounds like you met with some people to talk about the cost of these projects and the feasibility.
we started this semester asking the students to do their research based on economics. And so every single one of these schemes is tied to a budget of some sort. I think that in our meeting with the city, one thing that we were, made aware of is that some of the buildings in Providence are not taxed. And so depending on the type of new use, that would increase or not increase the city's coffers. And so I think that played quite a bit in some of the reuse decisions that the students made, and they can address this a little bit more. Hung Ja definitely did some amazing research on theme parks and the kind of income that they would bring in, but I think everyone did as well, and I think that students should join in here. Shreya, would you like to talk about the super farm and the how much money you projected for the city based on a 365-day harvest?
I'd have to pull up the numbers, but it was roughly around, as far as I remember, $1 million per floor of harvesting, and what I have planned is from floor 5 to 25, like a major of it. So roughly around that, going on the Gotham Greens. But this is just the revenue. This doesn't include the costs of maintaining it and everything. But it is a number, something like that. So it would be great to see a revenue of 22 or 20 million generated from the urban farm.
And I can imagine an urban farm also provides opportunity in the face of climate change, in the face of unknown, agriculture phenomena in the future, pests, flooding, and so forth, and also the need to support a growing community economy, and also people who are interested in urban farming.
Yes, so I have essentially tackled that in two ways. If you look at the image on the top right in my design, I also how the hydroponic works is on rails, so they can be moved around. What I have planned is to have created. So because when we had started designing this, like PPE equipment and masks were in demand, and no need to, there was no space to make them, and we were like, I was reading all these news of like 3M was producing it in Thailand, and then it was coming towards going to Canada, to US, and I was like, there are spaces where we can produce this in each and every country. We just need to think about it in a different way. So right now it might be masks and other equipment, but in the future it might be something else. That's why our facility, so to create whatever is needed, firstly in that way. But and secondly, it's not here, but for my studio presentation, I had of the Superman, and so that works in converting carbon dioxide. It takes up carbon dioxide from the air and it produces oxygen. So green on the on all the windows. So I was looking to devise a mechanism that could incorporate algae into the facade of the Superman, and it would keep changing colors from green to. So for making it look, so it would not only from the inside of the building create some oxygen for the world.
I know when we met with the owner, subsidiaries was a huge discussion, and he basically went on to say that, you know, office space and living space isn't really a viable option that's been proposed so far for him. Just in terms of tax and the money that he would be having to put into it, there wouldn't really be any reward for him. And I think our class had a huge discussion in terms of where are those breaks coming from. And my proposal specifically, I know the science industry has huge granting right now in Rhode Island. And so how I worked those subsidiaries in was those tax breaks are specific to the researchers that would be involved within the sort of the hub that I've framed. And so the granting that would be coming in is also specific to the research that's going on. And so that's how I programmatically sort of acknowledge the financial aspect. Everyone sort of had their own path, I think.
Have you guys looked at analyzing all the buildings around Superman building?
The students did begin by looking at sort of social and economic data and sort of looking at the Superman building in context. The parameters of the studio and, you know, our department really demanded that they largely look at, you know, the building itself. But we're hoping that some of these ideas might prove a catalyst, not only for the Superman building itself, but for all of downtown and in turn, the whole state.
Jonathan, it's Rachel. If I may add, you know, in so many ways, this is a matter of scale. For Providence, this is still a very large building. And clearly the city has continued to function with it being empty, vacant for 7 years. And so much of our restoration and adaptive reuse in downtown and the adjacent jewelry district has been smaller scale and largely residential. So I agree with you. You know, I do see the Superman building as the keystone of Providence, and it would be a shame if we bring the rest of the buildings downtown online and still have this white elephant. So an integration of mixed uses, I think, is the key to this. And the students did think about the surrounding area. For example, there's an empty lot across the street, basically, that could be used for structured parking or, you know, accessory to the Superman building and to complement the uses around it. But it's a big project, and certainly we want to think about the context of the entire downtown.
Avi, could I make a comment?
That's James Leach. Yes, go ahead.
I spent over 20 years on the city planning, where I was the secretary, vice chairman, and chairman. And I want to say that I think the students did an excellent job and well thought through. This building is really owned by a multi-billionaire, the Demoulas family from Market Basket, who have a lot of money and even received money back in a suit from Bank of America when Bank of America vacated the building. So I think, you know, to be looking for subsidies is great, but they're turning their pockets inside out, you know, through David Sweetser, who grew up with Demoulas and his best friend. You know, I think the 10 Mountain Capital people could put a little more thought into it instead of leaving it as, you know, a vacant icon. And that's just my thoughts about it.
I did not even realize that. And I was kind of surprised, considering their presence as a Market Basket entity in Rhode Island is relatively small. And one other thought I have also is the opportunity. You know, I think it was mentioned that has more steel than is needed, and also earlier we heard that some of the steel that was fabricated, you know, 100 years ago is actually much more stable and versatile than the stuff that's being made today. I'm thinking about just new materials, new technologies that are going into these buildings to make it more accessible and make these projects happen. Any thoughts on that, or what is coming out that can allow this building to be reimagined now more so than it could have a few decades ago?
I could speak a little bit to materials and the technology. Also, being a long-term Providence resident, if you don't mind me jumping in. One thing before we get into what you could do with the building is Kennedy Plaza has sort of gotten better and better over time, and buildings have been fixed up. And I moved to Providence almost 30 years ago from close by in Massachusetts. Downtown was abandoned mostly. Buildings were crumbling, Shepherd's Building. Many buildings were with strip clubs and liquor stores, but not, and then mostly abandoned buildings. Not a lot there. In 30 years, a lot has happened. So not just the What a Place Park and moving the highway, but there's opportunity for improvement, and there is steady improvement. And some of the recent plans for Kennedy Plaza are quite nice. And I assume it's been tried many times and slowly fixed up a bit here and there, but at some point or another, downtown is going to be a gem, and particularly between Westminster Street and Kennedy Plaza. And this is right there in the center of all of that. So if you're skating in Kennedy Plaza during the winter, you're dominated by the view of the Superman building. And unfortunately, and at night, it used to be gorgeous when it was lit up. And you can do all different types of things, modern ways with accent lighting, better than they ever could, and very energy efficient. And fun things, like you could display things on the wall, very low cost. You can project onto those walls, colors, words, videos, different things. So this is in the heart of a really steadily improving area where one building after another is being fixed up, reused, and that makes the whole neighborhood better. So at some point there is there's a tipping point economically where you're crazy not to fix it up as an investor and so forth. And there is the technology that does help save buildings, like what was done over the years versus what could be done now. Understanding of products and techniques of saving buildings is certainly vastly improved. Even to spot check buildings, which you have to do in the size, you have vertical rope access. It used to be like, well, we can't get at it because it's so hard to set up all the swing scaffolding, which now there are modern systems to scale down and fix up the building or install new lightings or fun things. But you can both set up preset movable swing scaffolding for easy access and rope access. There are companies that go around the building, make sure there are no cracks or spalls or anything dangerous. And so you have a real-time sort of monitoring. And then you have drones, which you could zoom in on any square inch of that building. If someone says, oh, I don't know, I'm worried that it's all falling apart, show me what square inch you want to look at that is or isn't. There's no, I'm worried about it, I have this big fear. So between drone use, vertical access through ropes, rappelling, very sophisticated techniques, modern stagings, and modern materials, and lighting and so forth, that exterior, which is a big thing, when it's lit up properly, and it's been dark for a long time, including the light at the top. Now they just periodically light it a little bit. A gorgeous setting, especially if you clean up the building a little bit. It's been cleaned in a long time. So much could be done to dress that up, to turn the lights back on, and it's a beautiful backdrop. And a lot of that is modern innovation, new products that you couldn't do before. That's true. So it was a great question. I hope that adds to the discussion.
Thank you so much, Michael. Really appreciate it. And thanks again to all the students, to the professors, and to the RISD Interior Architecture Program. This is, for me, and I'm sure for everyone else, a really almost transcendent experience, especially using the cool 3D phone thing, and really inspirational to see what's possible in our community.